Well, welcome. Today we have an interview with Wobbler. Wobbler is now, along with Italy's A Watch, one of my favorite classic progressive rock bands, still making music. Last year, I was fortunate enough to review their latest album, Dwellers of the Deep, and that album introduced me to what I had been missing for so long. I'd heard of Wobbler, but never actually heard their music. Next year, anyone who has missed Wobbler's earlier albums, like will be able to get the opportunity to hear and purchase them again. And I recommend that you do. I have reviewed them, and you can read the review below. But today we have the fortune to actually speak with two members of the legendary Norwegian band. Welcome to Progressive Rock Central keyboardist Lars Fredrik Frøsli and drummer Martin Nordrum Kneppen. Kneppen.
Yeah,
From
that's right.
Thank you very much, both of you, for taking the time to answer these questions. First off, the flight deck, where did the inspiration for the name Wobbler originate?
Oh, that's a good story, I guess.
Which
so-
involves the two of us, actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah. I think we were sitting in our rooms, which we lived with our parents at that time, like 18, 19 years old or so. And
17.
yeah, it might be 17. And we were thinking about, okay, we have this project going now, and we need to have a name. So I remember I had this old kind of dictionary of word from like difficult words, words from other languages and stuff. And I was just I just saw it and I took it down from the shelf and I just opened it and there it was, Wobbler.
Wow.
And I just spoke it out, and I think Lars, yeah, that sounds
that
nice.
It's like a shaky motion or something. I think the explanation was, I had no idea it was a fishing gear and all sorts of things. So 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 it's but it's fitting though, because like lots of the instruments we use, like the Mellotron and Minimoog, are rather wobbly. So and after we did some concerts, we just stuck with the name. And we had lots of projects at that time, and starting up bands almost every month. So it was just another name, and and here we are. 20 years later or something.
Yeah. It's strange about those things. You just try to find something and you don't put too much effort in it, at least in those days when you're young, and it sticks with you. We understood that, and just had to accept it, and it got it meaning, especially after Lars got his first Minimoog.
Well, it's a good name. It definitely sets you apart. And that's the important thing.
I guess so.
I wanted something very short, because the band we started before that had the very long name. So okay, now we just need something very short. So
yeah. The Big Huggy Bug Bear Band.
Yeah.
Well, Dwellers of the Deep is a magnificent album that, to me, actually sounds better than the representation of the sound of Yes, than the new band they have put together without John Anderson. That's not to say that you copy them, but rather you add to the sound that they originated back in the 70s. Which bands of the past were your primary inspiration?
Well, I guess we kind of discovered Yes at an early stage, and I guess then you have to check out Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Genesis, and of course King Crimson. That's the
Gentle Giant. Yeah.
Yeah, and And after a year listening to the British progressive rock scene, we got really interested in what happened in other countries, and was in kind of the birth of the internet as we know it today. So we discovered these pages and how big the scene really was in the 70s, all around Europe and I guess the world.
Yeah.
And we got really interested in all the Italian bands, especially. So we drew much from that in our early songs. And of course, the Swedish 90s scene with Änglagard and Anekdoten also inspired us a lot. And that showed us it is possible to play this kind of music today. And that was really inspiring.
Also, on top of that, we also listened to lots of Norwegian black metal back in those days. So we that was also an inspiration, but just without all the double bass drums and shrieks and fuzzy guitars. So yeah.
Yeah, we got some. I guess we got some of those harmonics as well. Yeah.
I just want to ask you: do you know who the Watch are down in Italy, Milan?
What you call them?
The band, the Watch. They do a lot.
The Watch,
of,
yeah.
Yeah, I've seen them several times.
Yeah.
I don't think we have shared the stage with them, but they are really good and really nailed that kind of 70s sound. Maybe, yeah, a bit like us in that sense, in the aesthetics.
All right. So what I get from your music is a multi-layered and textured symphonic folkloric music. How would you describe Wobbler? How would you describe your music?
That's a tough one. Do you have an idea, Lars?
Yeah, for me, I always picture like old Norwegian animation stuff from the 60s and earlier by Ivo Caprino, and sort of this fairy tale forest or something with a cabin and a little fireplace and stuff. So that's often a kind of image I've had in mind when I, at least in the early albums, I remember like thinking about that scenery. So and sure, there's lots of folk inspiration in there as well, and the medieval music or Renaissance music, and we listen to everything really. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. And in terms of the genre, I would agree that the symphonic part of it is really evident. At least what you did call symphonic prog rock in the 70s. But we kind of drew a little bit from everything. At least in Hinterland, I think we were vastly inspired by Univers Zero and the rock and opposition scene. And Samla Mammas Manna and lots of stuff, I would say. We just listened to everything and got inspired.
I was very much to Amon Tobin and stuff like that as well. So so it's so
like groove-based electronic music, sample-based music. Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's talk specifically about Dwellers of the Deep, your latest album. By the Banks kicks the album off fast and furious, and that keyboard work at the beginning is stunning and really took me back to some of my legendary favorites. Thank you very much for that, Lars. The piano work is incredible. Do you want to talk a little bit about it? It almost sounds like it started. You started recording before you were expecting to. I mean, it just jumps right at you, and I actually liked that. I mean, when I first heard that, I was like, wow, that was perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, it's every album we kind of start with a little intro or something. We just build up, and this time no, it's just like with a punch, and it's designed, it's like that little brum. It's not a mistake, it's very intentional, and yeah, I'm satisfied with it. That's one of the songs which where I made a demo like in I think it was 2011. So it's a song which has been laying around for years, and finally we recorded it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those songs we never kind of rehearsed before we recorded it.
Yeah.
We never played it together, and before we made it in the studio. There's one other song like that, and that it's La Beltane from
Yeah.
yeah, right at all. Yeah.
It almost sounds like if you guys saw that Beatles Let It Be stuff lately, it kind of sounds like that. You're sitting around, trying to put something together, and you just say, let's just do it. And you do it, and they record it, and it's like perfect. I mean, that's what it sounds like
cool.
to me.
Yeah. And that's a kind of new approach as well, that we're jamming stuff, even though that song isn't really a jam. That's just me jamming with myself or something. But we like Mary Macabre and various songs from Silence Somewhere was very much where everyone just improvised, and let's go for it. So
yeah. But it came out very well. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Well,
thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Martin.
Once more?
Oh no, we thought you were trying to say something.
No, I was just kind of nodding. Thank you.
All right. Well, following those unique keyboards, we get the first introduction of, for me anyway, of Andre's voice, and it was amazing. I mean, I thought I was listening to John Anderson and Chris Squire, a combination, the best of both worlds. John can get a little high, and Chris balanced them out. And Andres is almost like having both of those people at once, and it was just excellent. How did you bring him into the band? Has he been somebody that has always been connected with the band in some way, and then just decided now's the time, or how did you guys bring him aboard? And thank you, by the way.
Well, Andreas, we've been wanting him since the early days, really, but he played in a band. He's from another part of Norway, not very far from Hønefoss, but still, and he played in the Chronicles of Father Robin, another prog band, and then he moved on to a more kind of pop band called Lucas Kasha, and they were kind of they were doing it good in Norway, and I saw them on TV and stuff, and thought, I have no chance in getting Andreas to play with us now. He's too big of a rock star. So, but then I saw this message that Lucas Kasha had broken up, and the very same night, like in 3 o'clock at night, I sent him an email and asked him if he wanted to join. And I had contacted him a few years earlier as well, before we played Afterglow, our second album, but he didn't have the time, and it just so in the middle of the process of recording Rights at Dawn, we had actually recorded drums and everything. Andreas joined and added vocals, which lifted everything in my view. So
yeah, that was pretty amazing, the job he did. And when we kind of joined the band, I think then we really got completed as a band, then everything kind of fell together. if you can say that in English. It
No,
sounded
you
a
didn't.
bit weird.
And he's got all, he also writes lyrics and arrangements and the whole package, so it's a very and very full of inspirational ideas and stuff, which is always fun, to it's not like a drought where you sit at rehearsal and wonder what you're going to do. You just jump into it and do something, so that's very nice.
Yeah, he's a creative soul and thinks very much like us about music.
Yeah,
it's a perfect match.
And we also have, of course, the same musical taste, so he likes the same bands we grew up with, so he fitted perfectly.
All right, which this is going to be a tough one. Which I don't even know if I could answer it, but I'll ask you and you tell me. Which Yes album would each of you say is your favorite? Hard to pick those. They're all good.
For me, there are, I think, Close to the Edge is, but still, the song Heart of the Sunrise on Fragile is like perfect. So, but I think I'll go for Close to the Edge.
I think I'll go for Fragile. Yeah, that speaks to me.
Excellent. Let's say the bass and guitars and the drums really stand out on By the Banks. And I hear a little bit of Alan White in your drumming, Martin, but who inspired you most as a drummer?
I guess it was in many ways Bill Bruford. I kind of like this light way to play, and his how he kind of used the way he could get his ideas through, like in Heart of the Sunrise, which is kind of a military rudiment drumming idea, which he kind could translate to rock, and that spoke to me. He could translate all those hundreds of years with drumming culture into a rock groove. And of course, the jazz drummers used the rudiments, but they did it more like in fills and stuff. But he could translate it to a cool groove, and that really spoke to me. So I guess the drumming in Heart of a Sunrise kind of, okay, so this is possible. Okay, this is cool. And in early days, I think I also was really inspired by Daniel Denis from Univers Zero. And his way of drumming, really really kind of straightforward ideas. Yeah, something like that.
All right. And then Lars, how about keyboards? Who inspired you the most?
Oh,
go figure.
Well, there
so many.
well, I grew up with Yes and Rick Wakeman and but also Raymond Daniel Manzarek from the Doors.
Yeah, good.
And Keith Emerson, of course, I discovered and when I was a little older, and that blew my mind, and so but also Tony Banks and Kerry Minier and yeah.
I appreciate you mentioning Manzarek because he kind of gets left out a lot of times, and excellent. Yeah, he's one of my favorite as well. All right, 5 Room. Yeah, 5 Rooms is a real showcase for you, Martin. Multiple time signatures, changes. How do you possibly keep up with all that? I mean, you do, but how do you do it?
Yeah, that was a tough one. So I guess for some like 10 years ago, I joined the band called Tussmørke, which is kind of more groove based, and playing with them, I think I discovered a lot of to make a groove. I think before that I was playing more staccato, but then after playing them for several years, I kind of understood the magic about laying down a cool and complex groove. And I played a lot of the same stuff over and over again with that band, and so I think the idea with 5 Rooms is kind of the drumming style from that band, but on steroids.
Yeah.
A little faster and a little more aggressive, maybe. Yeah, it's just something that my body had kind of learned. My muscle memory just played it right away, almost. I just knew what to do.
All right. Naiad Dreams is a delightful spring song, especially when we're heading into winter here. Tell us about the Naiad girls and the dreams of spring during this late fall, heading into winter.
Well, I guess Andreas wrote those lyrics, didn't he, Lars?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but he's a really romantic guy. He kind of sometimes looks at the world in pictures. He's really good to painting out those sceneries, I think. But you know, Naiad girls in the up here in the cold north, cold north. I don't know, maybe.
Lars, do you want to say anything, or?
I think you have to ask Andreas.
Okay.
But, yeah.
All right, and Mary Macabre, the closer, is just unbelievable. Tell us about how that came about. It's just fantastic.
Well, that was one of those, jam sessions. The whole band traveled to the west coast of Norway, where the guitar player lives, and we just isolated in his house in a fjord and with the mountains and stuff.
Oh,
and
beautiful.
we actually got stuck there because of a blizzard. So the mountain back home got closed. So we were like stuck there, and which was fine. We just kept on jamming and having fun, and recording everything. And later on, we liked, oh yeah, that's a nice part, and and we sat. I remember we have this board where we tried the various riffs, let's try this there and repeat here and all sort of things. But yeah, it came very easy in a way. So yeah, and very satisfied with the results. And the middle section where we kind of just that's something we wouldn't do back in the at least the 3 first albums, where we were kind of impatient and just jumped from one part to another. Here we kind of explored just one simple theme in a way, or bass line, and just progressed on that, so yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It was kind of I wouldn't say it was effortless, but for us it was kind of effortless. We tend to use a lot of time discussing the arrangement and stuff, but this one kind of just came out naturally.
Yeah.
All right. Before we talk about the re-release of the 3 albums, I briefly wanted to touch on From Silence to Somewhere. It's a great job of solidifying what you accomplished with Rights at Dawn. Tell us some of the highlights on that album, and what it felt like moving from Rights at Dawn to that next level.
You asked, yeah. Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, highlights. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of time between Rights at Dawn and that album, and we changed guitarists and stuff like that. So I think we sat on those songs for some years, exploring the ideas, and I think that was a bit harder process than the last one. But highlights, yeah, maybe I just love the ending of Foxlight being really being folky and exploring the folk groove thing. That was nice. Just sits very well and at an end of a concert and stuff like that. So that's one of the highlights. Lars?
Yeah, well, you know, when after Rights at Dawn, we started to play much more concerts. So we actually tested out the material live before recording it. That was, I think, the first time, and adjusting it a bit after seeing the reaction of the audience and stuff. But like, I think, what's it called? Fermented Hours. That was one of those jam songs where we just met up at Andreas's place, and I remember thinking that, you know, we don't have any ideas what we're going to do. I was very satisfied with Rights at Dawn, so I was like, you know, we have lost it, you know. I was thinking, but then we just started playing, and yeah, okay, well, let's play some more. And then we Andreas came with you know, a very like the skeleton of from Silence to Somewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
That was a big job, of course, where, you know, we tested, tried out lots of different like things and arrangements and stuff, but it was worth it though, because when you see how it's received, you know, yeah. So, but that whole album is kind of special, even though we didn't necessarily know it when we did it, which is kind of a good sign, I think. We just
probably. Yeah. But I remember listening to the product afterwards. I was, is this it? I don't know. But then I started to read the reviews and listening to it again, and okay, yeah, this is quite good actually. I'm always skeptical.
I love the way you opened with the title track. It's almost like giving us the dessert first. It was really, it's jam-packed. It's an incredible song.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's quite an ordeal to start that song, the concert, which we've done a great deal. You're just thrown right into it, and yeah, I get some crabs in my forearm and just have to shake it off.
Foxlight is another great song. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that, or is there anything else you wanted to talk about from Silence to Somewhere?
Yeah. There's a funny thing about Foxlight, because in the middle of the song, there's this heavy Hammond organ part, which is actually an old riff I had from the black metal project. So that's just okay, we do wobblified it, or what you call it, you know, and just took away the fuzzy stuff, and we added some overdriven Hammond organ. So, and it worked out good, I think. Kind of heavy thing, but yeah, I like it.
Martin, anything you want to
add? Yeah, I think there's one of those riffs in the last album as well. I think, like leftover heavy stuff, which always translates very good to progressive rock, and it's quite interesting to see how the extreme metal guys also can be quite into the prog stuff from the 70s, and and Englagård and stuff. So there's one common denominator there, which I really can't identify, but there must be something.
Yeah. Well, I think we're about to run out of time for whenever you have more than one person, it cuts you off at 40 minutes. So if you guys can hang in here, we got the first half done. I was going to talk about the re-release of the first 3 albums and then the future, if you're willing to hang in here.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we're at the future then.
Well, hold on, not yet. No, we got to go back a little bit in the past. But I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording so that it doesn't cut us off in the middle of something, and then we'll restart it right away. So give me just a second.
Yeah, no